We are live. Let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we're back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. We have Alex Henley. How's it going today, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on here, Tom. I appreciate you making time for me.
Absolutely. How's jiu-jitsu class?
It was good. It was kids' class today, so we just taught them, and I watched them roll a little bit, cut out early, so I could come here and spend time with you.
All right. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Is that something that you've always been into besides like music, or was that?
No, man. I'm a lifelong musician, and I started jiu-jitsu about 15 years ago, and then about 4 years after that, I moved back out to Bastrop and opened this gym. I wasn't a black belt yet or anything, but there was nobody else out here, so I was a wizard for everybody that came out here. It was all magical to them, so it didn't matter that I wasn't a black belt. But yeah, so we had a 10 and a half year anniversary of that. But no, man, I was always the guy who got picked on. A lot of folks in jiu-jitsu are the kids who were picked on when they were little. Yeah, so that was my story.
Unfortunately for me, jiu-jitsu wasn't something that I knew about when I was a kid, because it was always like American karate. Like that was kind of like the thing. It was either that or wrestling. Those were like the two things that you could do. And then when I got to high school, we had a gym, like a multidisciplinary gym where they taught like jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just like a whole bunch of different stuff. And it's like, well, I'm getting ready to leave in like 2 years, so I don't know if I want to invest in this. So,
and you kind of have to. Like at my gym, I have a black belt in jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and judo, and then we have some other guys that teach Muay Thai. And anyway, we got lots of stuff that we offer out there. You kind of have to anymore. You have to offer more than just a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you're based out of Bastrop, which we were talking offline a little bit. We just came back from Bastrop. I love that town. If I could find work there in what I do, I would wholeheartedly, without a doubt, no second thoughts, move to Bastrop and not be worried about it.
And it's not that far from Austin. I think people feel like it's further than it is. I mean, it's maybe 35 minutes from kind of central Austin-ish, depending on traffic or whatever. But man, if you live in Round Rock and you got to get to South Austin, or you just live in North Austin, you got to get to South Austin, it's 35 minutes oftentimes too. Yeah. So it's a nicer drive typically. Yeah, it's cool. I was lucky enough to get back out here in 2014 when the prices weren't as high as they've gotten to be. It's still cheaper than Austin, but not, it's not as cheap as we'd like it to be. Folks would like it to be. Yeah.
Sure. I'm up in Waco, and it's not cheap up here either. Like for it being Waco, it's like, what the heck is going on here? So you said you're from the Central Texas area, and been around Austin pretty much your entire life. Is that fair?
Yeah, born in Dallas, so Texas for sure. The whole time in Texas. Moved to Austin when I was 5, and Bastrop when I was 15. Man, I'm pushing 50, so it's been a long time.
Fair. Yeah, and how'd you get introduced to music? Was that like I feel like in Texas, music is just kind of always there, but
it is. Yeah, it really is, and I feel pretty lucky with my story. I got to be around some pretty notable people, and I won't name drop here, but in the Austin scene, like it was some of the people you'd think, wow, really? Yeah, that's who. And so my mom wasn't a musician, but my mom worked for this guy named Bill Livingood, and he had a t-shirt printing company called Slow Printing. And he was also a musician, not as far as I could ever recall, not one of the more popular acts around town. He was a real odd guy. His name was Weird Bill is what they called him. And you still hear about him. If you meet some people that have been around Austin for 30 or 40 years and you talk about Weird Bill, good chance they're gonna know who the hell you're talking about. But Bill did a lot of the t-shirts for a lot of the folks that came through town. And so I mean, my mom worked for him and also dated him for a while in the middle of that, I think. And so we were just around it all the time. We were around all these really, really notable people in Austin in the 80s. And so yeah, it was just always there. I will name drop one at the end of the '80s. Not having anything to do with that weird Bill guy. My mom somehow made friends with a guy named Blaze Foley.
Oh,
And
nice.
do you know who Blaze was?
I'm familiar with the name. Yeah.
Man, there's a great movie about him called Blaze that Ethan Hawke did a few years ago, maybe 2018, maybe. Man, a very moving movie. It was very well done, a professionally made with high end, high
Mhm.
level stars, and Ethan Hawke's no joke. And it's worth a watch if you want to learn about Blaze Foley. Go watch it. But we were around him at the end of his life. My mom was a friend of
Well,
his. Didn't date him, but was a friend of his at the end of his life, and it was pretty cool. Side note that sometime last year I had somebody tag me, an old Austin musician that knew my mom, tag me like, "Hey, Alex, is this you and your mom?" And it was us with Blaze Foley. I put the picture on my Instagram account now, but and I'm sticking my tongue. I'm like maybe 12 or something, and I'm
mhm.
doing that while they're being adults, and it's pretty neat. So having growing up around people like that really really moved me in a way. And we also just went out and heard music all the time. My mom took me to hear music all the time. I mean, concerts and dive bars and everything in between. We were there for a lot of it, and I'm pretty grateful that I got that upbringing because I
Yeah.
think it made my tastes wide and varied.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Now, was there a world where you thought you were going to go more in what would be considered like a traditional Texas genre, like country western, somewhere in that vein, or was it always kind of your draw to more of a bluesy, soulful thing?
Yeah, blues was kind of always the thing. So I mean, yeah, a little bit. So in school when I was 11 through 15, when I moved to Bastrop, I had to quit. I played in the orchestra, and so I learned
Hmm.
how to read viola music, violin music, I guess maybe even cello and bass. I can't recall now, but um, and and so I got pretty good at sight reading viola music specifically. That's what I played in the orchestra, and then I moved to Bastrop, and they didn't have that, and so that's the only instrument I really played at the time, and I had inherited a violin from somebody on my dad's side when he passed away when I was a kid, and so I kind of switched to a more fiddle type of environment because I didn't have the orchestra outlet. You can't. It's hard to play Bach when you're
Hmm.
a one person. You need
Yeah.
an orchestra of people.
Yeah.
And so what I could do is I learned some like Garth Brooks licks. In fact, if you dug deep enough on my Instagram, you'd find a video clip of me doing the okay, a decent version of the intro of there's a Garth Brooks song called Two of a Kind.
Hmm.
It's from Working on a Full House. It's a cute song. And and I did it, man, a long time ago. I cut this finger on a table saw and it doesn't bend any more than that. So it's hard to get that there, but
Yeah.
I did it anyway. It was fun. So I mean, so I guess for a little while I did kind of lean into a little bit of a country thing all the while, almost all the while, because at 15 I started playing guitar too.
Hmm.
So I was also learning, and I never really played country on guitar. It was always like Eric Clapton and Black Crows and stuff like that is
Right.
what spoke to me at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so you kind of had a well-rounded, even though you could have very easily gone like country western, that thing. It seems like you had a very well-rounded like interest as far as music.
absolutely. And I feel like I still hear some of those influences, at least in my ideas. I might not execute them in the way that's identifiable as,
Right.
hey, that comes from this or that. But for example, I love steel guitar, absolutely
Hmm.
love steel guitar. And I
Yeah.
love like jazz violin too. Um, and if I could have some kind of swooning steel guitar in the background of a song, I would do that. I just don't play steel guitar. I could probably do it on a slide. It's not going
Mhm.
to sound the same as that real, like all those strings on a steel guitar and the pedal and the volume, and it's its own effect. So I haven't really done that before, but I've heard it. I've heard it, the possibility of it before,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's one of those things where it's like the idea of the influence sometimes gets outweighed because you think you're put like implementing like this influence or whatever, and then it's just kind of like, oh, it get kind of gets lost in the process.
It does. Yeah, it really does.
So,
And I don't really, I kind of want to do my version of stuff. For
mhm.
example, I do a Blaze Foley song, and he was real country singer songwriter. I mean, real hard. I mean, didn't sing real well, but man, he sang. He did also sing well in his own raspy way. And I do a soul version of one of his
Mhm.
songs because I love his music so much, but I want to make it mine.
Right,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And I think that's the trick, especially if you're going to do like cover songs. It's like yeah, you can do pay your like homage or whatever, but
Hmm.
I also think there's something to be said for the idea of doing it your way in a way that's authentic to you as a musician, you know?
Yeah, nobody really wants a carbon copy anyway. It's already been done that way.
Right?
Yeah,
And it's like if you're a tribute band, that's one thing, but at the end of the day, it's like some of my favorite songs, like I didn't find out till later were actually like cover songs. Like the Johnny
yeah,
Cash Hurt, I that's a cover song, and like the way he
yeah.
does is a million times better than the way the Nine Inch Nails does it.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
but
agreed.
that's that's my opinion. So I don't know.
No,
Uh,
yeah, for sure. There's a Harry Styles song that came out a few years ago, and that same year, another band covered it so much better than Harry Styles' version of it.
right.
Yeah,
It's yeah, I 100% get it. So, where are you kind of at right now with your music? I know you just released a new single today. Is that like singles kind of where you're focused at, or are you kind of hoping to do like bigger projects, or where are you kind of at like musically speaking?
yeah. No, I like the single thing right now. This is, and so my thought was after I'm at 9 things that I've released over the last since January of last year,
Hmm.
9 singles, and some of those are old songs that I wanted to do right, and some of them are new songs, and yeah, there's that one cover, that Blaze Foley song
Yeah.
I told you about. Um, and I assume that at some point I'll put it all together and make that its own album, and just also have it listed as an album as opposed to just all singles. Um, but yeah, I really want to focus on the recording aspect of. I'm doing everything in house, almost everything in house, man.
Mhm.
I've got decent equipment, really. I think pretty good equipment. If you go listen to it, any of the stuff that's come out in the last 24, 25, um, then I'm pretty proud of the quality of it. Like
Yeah.
it's as good as, I'm comparing it phonically to other really high level pro stuff, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
it's I don't know, the musicianship. You can say whatever you want to about that, but I'm just phonically, man, it's pretty sharp. It's there.
Yeah.
It's checking all the boxes.
Had you not told me that It'll Be All Right, your latest single that is available on Spotify now,
Thank you.
if you would have not told me that that was all recorded in house, I wouldn't I wouldn't have known. It was like
You,
that sounds like a studio quality product and done in $1 million studio, you know?
well, and that's the nice thing about nowadays. You used to have to be in a really high end studio to get that
Hmm.
kind of sound. They've just made things more accessible to musicians. I mean, I don't have a huge setup here.
Yeah.
I don't have a rack of anything. I've got an interface. I've got my software. I've got some
Mm-hmm.
good mics. You know, I mean, a good gear. You can see my guitars behind me. I've got
Mm-hmm.
some really nice gear that can make the sounds. Um, but yeah, it's just all in this room. It's not even particularly soundproofed, really. I mean, a
Right.
little bit here and there, but yeah, you can do a lot nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to take the credit, but it's really not me. It's these engineers that are making all this magical stuff for people like me to use.
Right.
Yeah,
It's so funny because I was showing a friend a live performance video we did back in like 2017, a band that we were working with at the time, and we record it's like a reggae punk band,
yeah.
and we recorded it in a dusty ass garage, no sound paneling, like just imagine like the grungiest garage. And she was listening to it. She was like, "It sounds like you guys recorded it in a studio. Where'd you?" And I'm like, "Well, first off, we had the pleasure of them just being ridiculously loud, so any bleed was just kind of inevitable, and it just ended up working out." So,
Yeah, and sometimes that kind of raw sound is what you're going for. I
mm-hmm.
watched a couple of your podcasts, you know, parts of a few of them, and I listened to one of the guys that was on there. I don't remember his name right now, but it was kind of this raw bluesy type of thing that he was doing, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it went for that big. The drums were real big and boomy and roomy, and he could have recorded them in a barn. That's what he was going for, so it worked.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So, when did you kind of start doing your own production, or was that something that you've kind of always been interested in?
For a long time, but I mean, just not very well, man. I listened to some of the stuff I did. Maybe a friend of mine recorded some stuff for me in 2002, so a
Mm-hmm.
long ass time ago, and he did a pretty good job. Even his aren't what I can do now, and he's a pretty talented guy. So the gear has come a long way for sure. But and then maybe a few years after that, I started doing my own. I did maybe even before that. I'm kind of getting the timeline messed up, but I did some ADAT. I don't even know if you know what ADAT is. It's all digital now, but it was right before things went digital, and it was done
Hmm.
onto a tape. It looks like
Hmm.
a VHS tape, exactly
Yep.
the same look. And so that was all right. It got some decent quality stuff, better than I had gotten on any other demo stuff I'd done. But really, it's all just been demo quality up until now. And I think the stuff's gotten better. My gear's gotten better. But also, I'm just like, nah, that's not good enough. Let me do that right. Let me do that again.
Hmm.
And I think I just settled before, and now I'm not settling as much. But yeah, to answer your question, very long winded, sorry, it's like maybe about, give or take, about 20 years. I've been kind of fooling with it. But the last six, and then again, even more so the last 2 years, I've really been trying to hone in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my biggest regrets in life is uh when we were living in South Chicago, my dad used to, when he was in high school and a really young adult, he used to do like jazz, he used to do like jazz music. Like
Nice.
that was kind of his thing. He played the upright bass. And I just remember as a kid, he had an old school reel to reel audio tape.
Yeah, nice.
And so he would always just kind of play like whatever random recordings he had. And I wish I still had that reel to reel player, except it got ruined in a flood at my grandparents' place. And
Yeah.
so it's just like,
Damn.
ah, shit, you know?
That's a shame, man. Good
Yeah.
grief. Yeah. It'd probably be sentimental value, but probably actual money value. It'd probably be
Oh, yeah.
worth a lot now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's still got his K base. And I'm sitting here like, he's talking about renting out his house. My dad's 70 now. And he's like, I think we're gonna rent out the house and start traveling. So we're gonna empty everything and put everything in storage. And I was like, well, that
I'll,
K base that you have
I'll
sitting
hold
in
on to
the
that for you, Dad.
right,
Right.
that K base you got sitting over there, instead of letting it sit in a storage room in South
Right.
Florida, bring it to me. Let
Right.
me hold on to it.
Honestly, he should. I mean, it's probably the humidity and
Mhm.
lack of climate and temperature control. Even, I don't know, maybe if it's temperature controlled, maybe, but there's too many unknowns for that,
Right,
man. If
right.
it's valuable, man, it should live in a house where people are monitoring all the, everything
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
it needs a little bit of refurbishing,
Okay.
but because like the neck is like really stressed because whoever tuned it last didn't know how to tune a freaking upright. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
starting to stress fracture a little bit. But
Yeah.
I I think I know I think I know a luthier or two that can like do
Yeah.
a quality job on that. So,
Probably. Yeah.
but you know, it's just one of those moments. So, um,
That violin I had also, I let it get. This is years ago. I think I was still in high school. I let it get in the wrong climate, and it cracked. And I tried to have it fixed once, and it worked for a little while, and then it cracked again.
right.
And I just stopped. It lives in a case now. It's pretty to look at. It's got some ornate like inlay stuff on it, and I just break it out to look at every once in a while. But it's absolutely not playable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Luckily, this thing is still playable a little bit, but for the most part, it's from 1919, and the story behind it is incredible. And it's just kind of like we got to preserve that thing. Like,
Nice.
don't don't get rid of it. Just bring it to me.
Yeah, that's smart. Similarly, mine has the grandfather that it came from.
Mhm.
He carved his initials in it on November 10th, 1910. I don't
Oh
know how
wow.
old it is, but that's the date that's on there. So pretty cool.
I mean, it's probably late 1800s then.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have no idea. It could have been brand new too. I just don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep,
That's true.
yep, yep.
So, how often are you out playing right now? Are you playing pretty consistently? Like, obviously, balancing that in the jujitsu gym, you know?
Yeah, consistently, but not as much as a regular like working Joe musician.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, probably more like 2 times a month. I've got some where I do 4 or 5 times a month, but that's just because it feels good. And I like, but really what I want to do, I've got a couple places like on Sunday, this coming Sunday. If you're listening to this anytime after this, it won't
Mhm.
matter, but we play there pretty regularly. We're playing at Skylark Lounge in East
Nice.
Austin. Yep. And that one isn't really a pay. Like we don't know what our pay is going to be there. It's based off of whatever, how many people show up. And that's the only one we do like that. Every other show we play, it's like there's this is what the pay is, and then you can get tips. And so I know what I can offer the band. So because of that, I don't want to inundate people with my music too much because we'll get people coming out fewer times. And And also, this is really just to feed my soul. I mean, if somebody wanted to get me famous and pay me $1 million for this, I guess I'll take it, whatever. Um, but really, I don't expect that. I think I just want to make music that people who like my type of genre can dig, and and then go play music with nice people who are talented. And like I've played in other bands with groups where the guys were just stellar. The talent was just out of this world, but man, they were kind of douchebags. And it's like you make it really hard to be around you.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do that. And so the people I surround myself with now are all so kind and talented
Yeah.
that it makes it so easy. So yeah, just and I have a few. The project is called Alex Henley in the Exchange, and that's because the people, maybe it's this keyboard player that night and that keyboard player another night. I've got a handful of drummers I go between, but they're all kind people who are
Mm.
badasses too. So it's nice for that. But for that reason, I just try not to play out as much, so I can
Okay.
be a little bit pickier about the pay and the crowd and blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now,
Yeah.
will you ever do like a solo thing, or is it always you and a band?
Yeah, mostly it's me and a band. I don't really enjoy solo shows that much. It's not where I feel like I can shine as much.
Mm.
But oddly enough, I am going to do one in just a few. It's the 7th, so in 20 days, on the 27th on a Thursday, I'm doing one here in Bastrop, Music in the Park, and this
Yes.
guy, another blues musician, like a real traditional like Muddy Waters blues
Hmm.
musician. I think Muddy is part of his name, uh, like his act. His name is Todd Roth. He's playing for an hour, and then I get up and I play for an hour. And it's going to be pretty different versions of blues that we play, but I
Hmm.
think it'll go well with each other. So that'll be it. So an hour, that's a little bit like my maximum, because I have a handful of songs where I can like, okay, I can shine on this without a band, but it's not, I really love that ensemble part of
Hmm.
music. So it's where I really want to focus. As you heard in the song, it's like I've got organs and I've got drums and I've got horns in the song,
Yeah.
I don't play with horns very often, but I'd like to start doing that too. Like, let me get
Mm.
work up to higher paying gigs so I can afford these
Right.
horn players that want to come be paid.
Oh yeah,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
I like that ensemble thing a lot more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
the thing in the park, that's the Bastrop Music Foundation, right? That's what
It
they're putting
is.
on.
Do you know Robert Kraft?
I'm friends with him on Instagram.
Okay.
He is very hard to get a hold of. At least
Oh, is
that's
he?
been that, but all I have him is on Instagram, so it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, yeah. So
Well, man, you know what? I'm kind of shying away from social media too. I'll post and stuff, but I'm not really like delving into messages as much. I paid attention recently, so I made sure I didn't miss stuff from you. But
yeah,
some of us, especially if we're not 20 something, maybe it's just like I guess I'm supposed to do the social media thing for music
yeah,
and jujitsu, and I'll post, but I just I'm not putting a lot of effort into that part right
right,
now. I kind of long for days when musicians didn't have to be marketing experts too.
right.
I know it's not an original thought, but it's like, man, it's such a drag that I can't just focus on being my best at musicianship,
Hmm.
and just worry about that the part that should be worried about. I have to also worry about how many clicks did I get and how many likes, and oh no, it's such a drag. I don't like it.
But all that to say, or to bring this up, I still think there's a lot of value in the ability for a musician to sell tickets. And yes, like the clicks and stuff, that matters to a point.
Yeah.
But to me, and everything that I've seen, I would rather work with a musician that has that is able to sell out a 300 seat listening room and put butts in those seats versus somebody that can get 100,000 streams on Spotify or whatever.
Well, there's probably some um, correlation there too.
Mm.
If you have 100,000 followers, you probably aren't going to have as hard of a time filling an arena or whatever you're talking, a
Mm.
large listening room compared to somebody who's got 300 followers. It's it's
Yeah.
it's a difference. I like the idea of just if there's talent, they will come. To
Hmm.
paraphrase Field of Dreams. I think of somebody like. Oh man, I don't know. I just said this to somebody. Oh, Adele, like somebody like Adele. I remember when she got famous. There's video of her getting famous, and she's lost weight and she's
Hmm.
Hollywooded herself up a little bit. And but at the time, she was a very plain looking younger woman who was unassuming until she opened her mouth. it was undeniable. It didn't matter what she didn't have to look like. I'm trying not to use a dated term. You know, she didn't have
Yeah.
to look like Dua Lipa to be famous. She sounded so good that it
Hmm.
didn't matter that she wasn't Dua Lipa. She
Yeah.
still got famous anyway. I'm not saying that's me, but that's what I'd rather focus my energy on being the best musician I can be and singer and stuff like that. And then I know I have to feed into the social media stuff some, but
Yeah.
I try to limit it is all.
Fair. No,
Yeah.
that's 100% fair because I'm very much in that same mindset of I don't want to have to sit here and put my entire life out online. I'd rather just
Yeah.
live my life for me.
Yeah.
But as I've presented myself as live and amplified, and I am live and amplified is me. I'm doing all the musicians I have on the platform a disservice
Sure.
if I'm not that marketing genius or if I'm not putting my full effort into the marketing aspect.
Yeah, I'd say the difference is you're on a platform that exists because, or in large part, if not because, since
Hmm.
social media has come up, podcasts have come up. Musicianship isn't that way,
Hmm.
and really genuinely, martial arts isn't that way either. The fact that I have to stay ahead on SEO and stuff. I was a web developer before I
Yeah.
did jujitsu, so I'm not. It's not too scary for me. But I think that might be part of the reason why I just don't enjoy it as much. It's like
Yeah.
I just want to be out there in the real world in the daylight and with my guitar or with my wife or something like that, and just kind of be out there living life instead of
Right.
toiling away on my device, which I
Right.
do like everybody else. I'm not acting better than I'm on my device more than I want to be also, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to limit that. Yeah, for sure.
Right. You're proactively trying to be present in whatever moment that you're having.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm trying to scroll less, doom scroll, as they say. I try not to. I don't want to. I figure like one kind of metric I'm using internally is like the fewer ads that are presented to me, the
Hmm.
better job I'm doing of keeping myself out of the nonsense.
Right. Right. 100%
Yeah,
agreed.
yeah.
So you said you've got a show coming up here in about 20 days. Is that like your next show or is it
No, I've got a couple more in March. So that one is the solo show in Bastrop,
yeah.
March 27th, down in the park. It's called Fisherman's Park, or Fark if you want to. Okay, never mind. and but this Sunday, the full band is at Skylark Lounge,
That's right.
6 to 7:30. We're opening up for, I believe we're opening up for Soul Man Sam. That's my goal. I love that guy. I love his band. I love the energy of Soul Man Sam. It's this old school. I think he had a birthday recently. He's like 75, 76, like that, or maybe in the last year. I think I was there one night and it was his birthday. He's old. He's mostly blind, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just got such a great band and great energy about it. So I love opening up for that because we get to go there and then we get to hang out and be a part of the fun show after that. It's a good time. It's only $10 cover at the door. It's the only place I play right now currently that has a cover. It's worth it, man. It's
Yeah.
it's an original Austin type of dive bar. It's not what you expect in our kind of glitzy city anymore. It's been there since the early '80s, but it was something else until about 14 years ago, and
That's
since then it's been Skylark. It's a great place, even if you don't go on Sunday to see us, but you should.
mhm.
It's worth checking out. You guys need to go if you like blues. It's not only blues though, man. It's like they've got hip hop. I mean, they've got some cool
Yeah.
stuff, man. Yeah, but it's like organic. Oh, man, it's so good. Go check it out.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
It's an authentic Austin dive bar where you don't have to worry about getting shanked if you were going down 6th Street.
Not at all. Oh yeah, no, everybody's so nice there. It's on East Airport,
Yeah.
and yeah, everybody there is so kind. That's
Yeah.
just all I get. I can't get over how incredibly nice all the owners and the
Mm.
the the staff. Everybody there is just so damn sweet, and the music's fun too. So it's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to check the venue out. I'll see if I can make it out to the show on Sunday, but if not, I'll be on the lookout for the next one at least. So
Cool, man. Sounds good. Well, yeah, if you go to alexhenley.com, I put all my dates on there. You could do it other ways too. I think
mm,
I think Spotify has a thing where it integrates with bands in town, and I
mm.
also did that. So if people use Spotify, you can go click on stuff like that. That's I don't know where you push your podcasts. I'm actually kind of curious
Spotify.
about Spotify.
Yeah.
That's like there are lots of streaming services, but it's like Google. I do search engine optimization for Google. The other
Hmm.
ones surely follow suit. So I kind of just push where my how Spotify is doing is how I track metrics on stuff. So
Oh yeah.
I always kind of push that. So if people go to Spotify and hey, something I want to kind of educate people about too, man, about music and musicians, you don't have to go to shows. Going to shows is great. You don't have to buy merch. It's great if you do. That's probably the best two ways you can help your bands out,
Hmm.
your favorite musicians out. But if you go and like everything, you follow each artist on whatever you listen to them on, you follow them, you listen to every song, you share their music with other people, and you save it to playlists. Man, that's what that when they talk about algorithms, that's what they're talking about. How many times it's I'm sure you know this, Tom. I'm just saying to
Hmm.
anybody that's listening, but people aren't aware, like, okay, yeah, I listened to half of it or whatever. No, I mean, half of it's better than none of it. But if you
Hmm.
listen to it more than once, put it on a playlist and it comes up, it's like, oh, that's that Alex song or whomever you're talking about. And then, like I said, if you share it with friends and then they go listen to it, that kind of stuff, it starts making magic happen
Hmm.
for musicians. Really, it unlocks stuff that people don't think about unless you're a
Okay.
musician. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's like I mean, we were talking. I did a podcast earlier today, and we were talking about like the vanity metrics of things, and you're laughing because you kind of have an idea. I don't even have
Yeah.
to describe what vanity metrics is,
Yeah,
but
sure.
like I feel like the real aspect of that is like the follows and the even on Spotify now is they're kind of incorporating more engagement opportunities,
Hmm.
at least for podcasting. I don't necessarily know how it is for music, but um like
I
they're
suspect
opening,
it's similar.
yeah. Um, and so it's just one of those things where it's like, as I see more like real followers, like, because I've had it before where it was like, oh, we got caught up in like a bot thing, and it was like, oh, we've
Yeah.
got 5,000 followers, but 4,500 of them are all bots, and so
Yeah.
it didn't do anything. But like now
Mhm.
we've kind of rebranded and started a new podcast feed, and we're like getting real followers, and like
Good.
that's like real numbers, and it's like that that engagement helps, and it's real. Like everything you're saying is real. So
It lets the algorithm gods know what's legitimate and what's
right,
not.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
consistency. That's the other thing, which is a little bit harder for music, but it still matters. So
Well, and that's where the social media comes in because if you're consistent on the Instagram and blah blah blah, then it that adds to consistency. I know exactly what I should be doing is how often I should be
yeah.
posting and what types of the reels versus the all that stuff. I get it. I just man, I do it a little bit because I have to. I mostly do it because I want to, and then I don't do it enough because of that. But that's all right. Like I said, man, I'm here to make music that I like first.
Mhm.
That the people I respect and that I play with, they also seem to like it, and then I'm growing a little bit of. I'm not going to call it a fan base. That might be a little bit hyperbolic, but yeah, I'm growing some people that are like starting
Mhm.
to follow me. Pretty organic. I have to do some things to get up on the radar, or especially
Mhm.
had 150 or so thousand streams on Spotify last year. It's pretty
Mhm.
good for somebody who I came from almost nothing the year before, but I really
Yeah.
started pushing in the right ways. Now I'm kind of riding that out a little bit and seeing what
Yeah.
happens, and it seems to be working so far.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be once you kind of see what happens and then you jump back into it. Because I feel like the algorithms do need to rest a little bit to kind of reset,
Really? Okay.
because I've noticed that too, where I push so hard and then like you kind of start to see your numbers like bottom out, but you're pushing as hard as you ever have. I feel like sometimes you just kind of pull back and give it like a week or two, and then the numbers start to climb back up once you get back into it. I don't know. That's just something I've kind of noticed over the last 6 months.
I like it. It seems like you're noticing some real trackable things. I
Yeah.
like the thought process behind it too because
Yeah.
I've noticed that in music. Like I
Hmm.
said, when I cut my finger years ago, I took a long time off to heal from that. When I
Hmm.
came back, it was rough. And then after a short amount of time, I felt like I was in a better place than I would have been had I been playing that whole time. I don't
Yeah.
have any way of proving that, but that was how it felt to me.
Yeah.
And I like that feeling. Yeah, take a break and last year I had some stuff. I actually had half of my thyroid removed. I had
Oh,
two vocal cord polyps removed from my vocal cord. So
oh
it's
no.
not. Yeah, and I'm still recovering. My voice still isn't 100% singing wise, but it's better. It's good enough to perform. And um, but I it's been today that song released. It was literally exactly 6 months ago that I released my last one. But I was doing one every month or two,
Yeah.
6 weeks before that. But that's all right, man. I was glad. I was happy. I had stuff to do. I also got married around then, so get little time to spend being happily engaged. I mean, happily married with my new bride. And by the way, my new song "It'll Be All Right." That's a kind of a funky little love song I wrote to my new wife, Elise. So
Nice. Oh,
yeah,
I dig it.
yeah.
Where you kind of at? Obviously, you just had the new song released today, but are you looking at the next project already, or are you just kind of going to let this be what it is? And
No, project like song wise, I guess you mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so like probably like most singer songwriters back in the day, I used to keep a little voice recorder. Well, now
Yeah.
we've all have that on our phones, so I pretty constant stream of like little ditties that I record on my phone. I'm looking for my phone. I forgot. I'm staring at it. But I have, I have song ideas, and oftentimes because I can, I have a style. Some of those ideas go together, and I'm like, oh, that's the chorus, that's the bridge. It's all coming together. Um, and so yeah, I do. I have some stuff I'm already working on. It's not fully formed yet. I'm kind of start. My process lately is I get some rough stuff. I go record a little bit. Maybe I kind of cut and paste to see what that part
Mhm.
sounds like there. And if I like it, then I'll redo it all in that order.
Mhm.
That's how I did it. It'll be all right. It was not fully formed
Nice.
until it was recorded as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So you're kind of all. It feels like you're always kind of in a constant state of at least some sort of creativeness.
That's my goal. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
know lots of songwriters in Austin specifically. That's where I know most of the musicians. I
Yeah.
know. I don't know if you know who Ray Prim is. Have you interviewed Ray?
I have not. No.
Man, that's somebody that guy is hilarious, and he writes about a million songs a day. That guy is so prolific. I love it. I can't let myself off the hook like that.
Mhm.
And by that, what I mean, this isn't a backhanded compliment. It kind of sounds like it is, but it's like when anybody writes so much,
Mhm.
I know that they just expect that some of that's just going to be get it out of the way. But when you write 20 songs in a month,
Mhm.
two of those are probably going to be pretty good. Well, that's better than my one song every 6 months. So, even if it's good, that's still a better output than what I'm doing. And that's how Ray is, man. That guy has some shit to say.
Right.
Yeah, that dude can write a song. And he's this tall, a little bit older than me, black man. And I swear he writes like he's a teenage white girl. I mean, it's just like, I mean, he's got back. I used to play with him. He had
Mhm.
songs about girls getting their image from magazines. And like, it's like, where is this coming from, man? I can't believe you have this soul inside of you that you
Yeah.
have. It's just empathy is what I take it as.
Mhm.
But man, he's so funny. He's so gregarious. He's such a smart and funny and he's a play. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to gush on him. He's just a good dude. You should look into Ray Prim and reach out to him because he'd
I
be a
will.
great addition to your podcast.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like this year. I've been trying really because last year I was kind of on the fence if I was going to stay in Texas because like I like Texas, but I didn't know if it was doing what I needed it to do for the podcast to like really grow. But then at the end of last year, I just kind of had this premise. I had we'll call it a drunken conversation with a friend of mine. We
All
we were
right.
we were actually down in New Braunfels. We were at a music festival in New Braunfels down there, and we were sitting on this like tree stump thing, and she was just kind of grilling me about because I was a little upset about how Waco, because I'm up here in Waco, I was a little upset on how they were doing some things up here and how the turnover of the scene felt like it was like everybody was kind of leaving the scene to go to
Mm,
Dallas or go to Nashville or go to Austin, so I
yeah.
was just
Right.
I was kind of getting upset about that. And so I was kind of taking it out on the city a little bit. And so we had this conversation and it just made me realize like, no, like Texas is where I need to be. Like Waco is not a bad place to be. Even if people are
Mm-mm.
leaving, it literally takes me an hour and a half to get to Dallas. And
Yeah. It's so centralized.
yeah, and depending on where in Austin, like to get down to Bastrop, it literally takes 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that depends on which way I go, I guess. But yeah. So
Well, if you're coming down Waco on 35, you take exit 304 by Bucky's, and then it takes you down 95. I know the way.
Yep.
That's the quickest
Yep.
way here.
Yep. That's actually the way we went. And
Yeah.
it was funny because when we went down there on Sunday, my buddy from Roswell, New Mexico came in. He's my co-host, and he was like, or we got on 35, and I wasn't 100% sure which way it was taking us, and I kind of figured out where we were going. And he's like, "Hey man, once we get into Bastrop, I need to get like a jacket or something because it was still cold. We were driving at
Yeah,
like
right.
8 in the morning, and it was still kind of cold out." And I was like, "Oh, well, we're on a farm road here, or like a state highway here in Central Texas. There's going to be at least 30 Dollar Generals on this road leading into Bastrop." And sure as shit, 3 minutes
Yeah,
later, there's a Dollar General, and I'm like, "Well, you're gonna find a jacket here, I bet you." So yeah.
right. And some laundry detergent and maybe some eggs. I don't know what.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And then there was like $2 Generals for every town we ran through. So I was
Yeah.
like, I know the state so well already. It's not
Yeah.
even funny.
Where
But
are you from, Tom?
Chicago.
Sure. I can hear the accent. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I train with the guy. Your voice sounds almost just like him. His name is Jamie, and he's actually in Chicago right now just for work. But
Yes.
yeah, I know the accent now.
Oh yeah. It's actually you're the first person to ever point it out because like my accent has kind of melded into some weird southern thing because I've pretty much been in the South since I was 20 and going on almost 17 years, 18 years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, and you don't sound. It's not like Boston accent where it's
Yeah.
all. It's
Yeah.
just I can just a little timbre in your voice from where in your throat that you speak and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Fair,
Yeah, for
fair,
sure.
fair.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, no, I absolutely love Texas, and it's like I'm staying here. Like
Yeah.
let's call a spade, and I'm
Yeah.
staying. It now it's just a matter of do I want to stay in Waco? Do I want to come down to like Bastrop? Where's the best like job opportunities for me? So yeah,
Well, I don't know
that's
what you're looking for. All of Elon Musk's stuff, almost all of it is in this county now, the
mm-hmm,
SpaceX and the X and the Boring Company. He's got a lot of stuff out here, man.
mm-hmm,
And a bunch of movie studio people are
mm-hmm.
um, moving out here. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
lot of opportunities depending on what you do. But yeah,
oh yeah. I do uh I do marketing and digital marketing. So like
oh, okay, cool.
social media management and all that stuff. So it's
Yeah,
just
cool. Oh, so I was totally shitting all over your career earlier.
no, 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 no. No. It's 100 like it's one of those things where it's like I 100% get it because it's like for me personally, because I have to do it professionally, like I absolutely hate living my life online. But like
Hmm.
let's say hypothetically speaking, I was running your social media platform for your gym, right?
Hmm.
Like I love doing that. Like I'm really good at it. Like I've taken the job I work at now. I've grew their YouTube channel from like 8,000 subscribers. Now we've got over 210,000 subscribers
Wow.
in less than a year. So it's just like
Congrats.
it's one of those things where it's like I really love doing it, but for whatever reason, for myself, it's like this impossible feat that I just hate doing.
Yeah.
So
I get it. That reminds me of there's some old saying, and the the lawn care guy whose lawn is in shambles or
yeah.
whatever. I remember in Bastrop years ago, there was this sign making company, and they're
Mhm.
up on the hill, and their sign was like this painted on with a roller signers. I'm like,
Yeah.
who would go to you anyway?
Yeah.
They weren't there for long. Yeah, so it's that kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense that I don't want to cut my own grass. I cut everybody else's grass.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like I'll pay you to cut my grass. I'm good. Like I
Right.
do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I can't pay myself. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I could, but that'd be weird. So,
I think
but
as a gym owner, I'm the janitor, as people say. I'm
yeah,
the CEO. I'm literally the CEO because I incorporated it. But I'm also the guy who cleans the toilets, and I'm the one who replaces the air
yeah.
filters. I'm the one who does the web development. I manage the social media. I would love to get to where I could pawn some of that out. I think
Mhm.
I'd probably start with the cleaning shit first, but
Right. 100%. So, since you brought it up, I do have a very curious question. Since the influx of Joe Rogan, have you seen your gym members like climb?
Yes, I don't know how much of it is due to Joe, but there is a huge influx in Austin. I don't know what you know about the jiu-jitsu community. So comedians, obviously, a ton of
Mm,
comedians moved here
mhm.
because Joe was like, "Come on, guys."
Yeah.
And then jiu-jitsu too, man. Do you know anything about the sport of jiu-jitsu? I just don't want to talk down to you or whatever.
As for jujitsu, I know a little bit, but like I'm no like extreme expert. So
Well, I mean, I'm going to say names that you have absolutely no idea who they are. Probably your audience won't, unless you train, and then you're going to be like, "Oh my god, what?" But
yeah.
like the number one, especially nogi grappler in the world, is a guy named Gordon Ryan, and he's
Hmm.
been the number one for a million years now. And so they were out of New York, and then they moved to Puerto Rico or something like
Hmm.
that for a little time, and then COVID hit, and that Puerto Rico didn't work out, and so they beeline to Austin. I think
Hmm.
because of Joe, I assume some part of that. We also already had one or two other kind of bigger names starting to migrate here from California, and
Hmm.
then COVID happened, and they all just bum rushed Austin. So
Yeah.
what I have noticed is my membership has grown, but because
Hmm.
Bastrop is growing fast, and I attribute
Hmm.
it to that more than somebody like Joe Rogan. But what I
Yeah.
have noticed is that in Austin and Bastrop, we were a very tight knit jujitsu community up
Hmm.
until 6 years ago, and like I've competed a lot. I've done well. Like
Hmm.
I'm especially back before that. I had people knew who I was around town
Hmm.
in the jujitsu community.
Yeah.
Like it was a friendly, like literally knew me, not just it wasn't some fame thing. It's like we've all met and trained with each
Yeah.
other. It's just not the case, man. Nobody in Austin even knows we're here. My gym's been here longer than 90% of the gyms.
Yeah.
All 100% of the gyms that are the big names, I've been here longer than them. They don't know that we exist, nor do
Hmm.
they care. They used to come out
Yeah.
and train with us. They don't need us anymore, man. They all stay
Right.
in Austin.
Yeah. Is
Back in the day, there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, isn't Eddie Bravo's gym? Isn't that been based out of, or what's that?
No, you're right. He has a 10th planet here.
Yeah.
That one came here before COVID. Still younger than my gym, but by a
Yeah.
little, not by a lot. Maybe
Yeah.
if I'm 10 and a half years, they're maybe 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Um, and they are huge, and they've got
Hmm.
because of where they are, the name, the big name people that post COVID especially have rushed.
Yeah.
Man, they have a huge team there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I don't mind. I think I
Right.
might have even heard that there might be a 10th planet moving out to Bastrop.
Nice.
I'd be okay with that. I kind of I hope that they come in kind of friendly. I've had some more competition move out here, and it's been kind of a backstab almost by a
Yeah.
couple of them. And so it's like, man, I'm ready for some friendly teams to be out here that we can co-train and
Right.
commingle.
Right.
They're all no gi at 10th planet. We do gi and no gi, so
Yeah.
we're not exactly stepping on my toes too much.
Right. So I have a funny story for you that you might find the humor in. So from 2013 to 2017, I lived in Roswell, New Mexico. And at that time, I was really into filmmaking. I was like doing like independent films and stuff like that. And my buddy owned a boxing gym or worked at a boxing gym in Roswell, New Mexico. Um, and so I had this idea for shooting a short film. It like in the combat sports, it's a very cliche film about a guy that's past his prime but gets that one last shot. Like a
All
very
right,
very cliche film idea,
I
but
want to see it.
it never ended up getting shot. But
Okay.
it basically it came up because I was doing a a video project. I got hired on for a video project at this elementary school, and they had this really cool section of the gym that was like a low hanging ceiling, and it just kind of felt like an old school 1920s boxing arena where like everything was really close to the ground and like you'd have been like right on top of each other.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I was just like, that'd be really cool to shoot like a boxing film. I at that time, so whatever. Um, so I reached or asked my buddy, I was like, hey, I'm looking for some like boxers or maybe like MMA guys. Like at that point, I wasn't 100% sure which way we were going to go. He's like, well, the guys here in Roswell, you don't want to work with them because they're all just kind of everyday Joes that just kind of come and train. Like they're not actually boxers. They just kind of
Yeah, they're not
they
competitive. Yeah.
yeah. But I've got a guy, he's up in Albuquerque. I know him really well. I'll get you in contact with him and he'll get you hooked up. And I'm like, okay, sweet. So I reach out to this guy. and he sends me a few names of guys that would be interested. Come to find out, it's Jackson Wink,
Yeah.
MMA,
Uh-huh.
and
Hmm.
I'm just sitting there. I'm
That's the
like,
gym. Yeah.
yeah,
That's the
it,
gym name. And who,
yeah.
what fighter names did they send to you? Do you remember?
Oh man, it this
That's
was
right.
let's see, they
I'm
were
trying to
true.
think. I can't remember who was out of there right now. Back in the
It
day, back,
it
yeah.
was like Holly Holm was one of the names that got brought
Oh,
up.
okay. Yeah.
But at that time, it wasn't like a female driven project. So I was just kind of,
Sure.
but had I known, it would have been like, this was before she fought Ronda Rousey, and I would have been like, oh, yes, let's do that. But it was,
Right.
the biggest name. Oh, what was the guy's name? He was on like season 4 of The Ultimate Fighter. Like that was his big claim to fame.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't know, man. I watched those, but I don't
yeah,
remember now who was on what season. Yeah.
yeah. But most of the guys were like, they fought on like not little cards, but like independent cards or whatever you would consider it in the MMA world, but they never
Yeah,
ended up really going anywhere. So
yeah, a lot of smaller things feed in, feed up and feed up and feed up, like
yeah.
and then down again. It's like I don't know if you've heard of Bellator, but that's one that I've seen a few people go from Bellator to the UFC. Mostly it's people that have had their prime in UFC, they go back down to Bellator. It's still legit.
I'll kind of give you my background on MMA. Like I was really into it growing up. Like I would watch King of the Cage. I would watch like Bellator,
Hmm.
Elite XC was that's
I think you're right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, Elite XC. I would watch Pride. I would watch
Yeah.
UFC, and just like all the anything and everything. And it's just like nowadays, it's like the market is so saturated with so much MMA. Like I've not watched a MMA pay per view in about 10 years, and
Same.
I have no idea who anyone is right now. It's just
It's
like
funny. I see a card every once in a while. I'm like, oh, I still know a name. It's
yeah.
crazy. I haven't watched in so long how I still know anybody's name, but I guess those people, some of those guys are still fighting. I just kind of have a little bit of a moral problem with it. It's like just the brain damage. Some of these guys are getting older now, and they're starting to talk funny, and their
Mm-hmm.
eyes aren't going in the same direction, and their teeth are, it's
Mm-hmm.
just that's all right. But it's man, I know that a lot of these guys, unless you're again dated reference because I don't watch that often, but unless you're Conor McGregor or something like that, you're not making the millions. You're
Mm-hmm.
making hundreds or maybe thousands, and most often you're not making up enough to counter what you spent on your training camp getting ready
Mm-hmm.
for that. And then you're also doing all that damage to your body. Likely,
Yeah.
I mean, not every fight ends in that, but a lot of them do. Most of them do, I'd say. Getting your clock cleaned, even if you don't get knocked out, it's not good for you. So I don't
Uh,
know, man. That's what got me into jujitsu, but I'd rather just stick with the
right.
grappling
Because
part.
like the grappling, it's just one of those things where it's like I've watched some like jujitsu stuff like on YouTube or whatever, and it's cool. Like it's cool, it's entertaining, and it's like I see the competitive aspect of it. But as far as
Mm.
like watching it, it's like if I'm gonna be a part of it, I'd rather like participate than like just sit there and watch it. Like to me, I feel
Well,
like yeah, go ahead.
there are certain events that you will have more excitement than others. Like if you were
Mm-hmm.
to watch ADCC,
Mm-hmm.
Abu Dhabi Championship something or ADCC, those are no gi. They're flashy. The rule set is so that you cannot sit still. It is
Mm-hmm.
very fun to watch. The ones that I competed in most are like IBJJF, International
Mm-hmm.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And man, that's where it's real minute and you're playing this tiny little game. Don't score that point. And you see, sometimes it's flashy, but oftentimes, especially in the gi, it's really boring from the outside, even
Mm-hmm.
as somebody who does it. And I can appreciate how hard it is that they're doing. I'm still about to fall asleep watching a lot of it. My matches
Yeah,
included. Being a little bit older when I started, my matches were never real flashy. But my son, who's a killer, Grayson Henley is his name.
yeah.
He man, his matches are really exciting. He's a lot lighter than me, and he's younger,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes for exciting matches. So you can find him. You just got to know where to look.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And it's just one of those things where I'm so ingratiated in the music scene. It's just like adding that extra
yeah,
thing.
of
It's
course,
like,
yeah,
eh, I liked it, but I wasn't like in love with it where I've got to order like every pay-per-view. And it's just like,
agreed. Yeah,
if it pops up and knowing how the internet works nowadays, I'll probably get inundated with 30 ads for Brazilian jiu-jitsu schools because
maybe you're welcome.
well, I'm sure I am, but I wouldn't be very good at it. I'll promise you that much.
Well,
So,
nobody is until they are, man. And I guess you did the math for me earlier. I'm guessing you're in your late 30s.
yep.
I started in my early 30s. Like I said, I just turned 49, and I feel like I look young. I feel young. My knee
Hmm.
hurts right now, but other than that, um, so this kind of stuff can keep you feeling and looking younger for a long time. I've literally got a 76-year-old purple belt now. He doesn't move like the rest of us, and he has to sit a lot out. But man, he's in there and he picks stuff up, and he's
Hmm.
competed once. Like in his 70s, he competed once, and yeah, and it's different. I know what. No, I said 76. I'm sorry. This guy is 86 years old. I was wrong.
Holy shit.
I
Okay.
met him when he was 76,
Okay.
and the guy is a fuck. I mean, it's crazy. And he lost his wife earlier, a little over a year ago, and then he had his other knee replaced. He'd already had one replaced, and his other knee replaced about 5 or so months ago, and he's back on the mats. He has been. He's back on the mats already, and has been for a while. And he's out there, and he's like, okay, I'm going to take a break now. I'm getting tired, but he's out there. It's amazing. So I call bullshit on your excuses. That's all.
Well,
I'm kidding, joking,
no, no,
obviously,
no,
but
no, 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 no.
yeah.
You're 100% right. It is all bullshit. But I've often, so I have a cerebral palsy. Obviously, you can't
Oh,
tell.
now you're really making me feel like an asshole. Okay,
No, no,
I
no,
was
no, no.
just kidding anyway.
No, 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 no. It's just one of those things. Like, because when I was younger, I did American karate, and
Cool.
I feel like had I stuck it out, things would be like I don't think I'd have been any good, but it would have been like something that I stuck out. And then I wrestled in high school, and I let an injury kind of scare me off the mat. Like I still
Yeah.
wrestled through high school, but my sophomore year, I had a they stuck me with all the freshmen to kind of train the freshmen, I guess, like when they were like first coming into practice. And
Okay.
this one kid thought it'd be funny to slam me on my head. And that
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, obviously
I'm done.
I can't trust anyone. And so
Yeah.
like I had a couple of matches that year because it was like it was like for sophomores only. It was like a basically they weighed everybody and then they broke you off into groups of eight depending on what you weighed at that point. And so
Yeah.
it was like an 8-man bracket, and that's kind of how they did it. And it was a cool idea, and I wrestled, and it was whatever. And then I didn't wrestle again until my senior year when I had a coach was like, "No, you need to get on the mat one last time." And I realized then I was just like, I am so out of my league on this shit because
Yeah.
I was winded after like the first round, and I was like, yeah, like I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, but I'm
Yeah.
so out of my league on this, and yeah,
You got
so
to be ready for that stuff, man. If you were sitting out, yeah, that's kind of not fair for them to put
yeah,
you in that position because kids, especially, internalize that shit, man, and
yeah,
like because they feel that's why my kids have to. My everybody has to get approved by me before I say yes. You can go sign up for a
yeah,
competition
yeah,
because I just want to make sure. I'd love for them to win. It helps it.
yeah,
They feel better. It makes the gym look good. That's not my reason. I don't
hmm,
want you to screw yourself over by being ill prepared and then you feel like, man, what am I doing here? And then you quit at something that you would have had a lot of fun. Man, I got injured early on. I hurt my
hmm,
rib twice, the
yeah,
floating rib. I almost quit. I started with a friend, and he's like, no,
yeah,
fuck you, you're not quitting. And then also I'd signed a contract and I was like, all right. It was really hard to get out of that. So I was like, all right, I'll still go. I'm so glad I didn't quit. If somebody were there telling me, nah, man, you
hmm,
whatever, or whatever the reasoning was, right?
yeah,
I tried something too quickly and it was disheartening. I might have given up and I wouldn't have found this
hmm,
calling, but I love what I do. I love training. I don't, it's been almost 3 years since I've competed, but I did it for 10
yeah,
years solid, man. And I feel like I did my time and I'm glad I
right,
did it. And yeah,
right,
you got to watch out for people and putting them in positions that they
right.
don't need to be in. So I'm sorry you're put in that position.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like I feel like had I had a coach, like my coaches were all really cool. Like they let me come train when I could, but it was like I was doing like cardio stuff, like doing like the laps
Yeah.
and weight
Hmm.
training, which I'm very appreciative of that. But like as far as like the hardcore drilling,
Yeah.
I wasn't getting any of that.
And
And
it's
it's just,
different.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like I could run all the laps you want me to run, but it's like that's only going to get you so far. So,
Yeah. 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 For sure.
but anyways, So kind of looking forward, you got a couple of shows coming up and then hopefully some more music coming out later this year. Is that kind of the thought process?
Yeah, yeah, I'd like to. I mean, I'm in this song that like I said, isn't really fully formed. I don't even have any
Mm.
words to it yet, really. Some like phonetic ibbity bop boop kind of, I
Yeah,
kind of know
yeah,
what the vowel sounds I think should sound like. But yeah, I'm hoping by in 2 months I'll have it done and maybe out ready to be released or released already. I don't know. That's kind of been my thing. It's like I just want to churn something out. This is a muscle that I didn't exercise for a long time. When I was
mm,
getting the gym going for 7 or 8 years, I
mm,
just shut music out for the most part. I did a little bit, but not much. Like I played overseas a few times, and I'd still do that a couple times, but I really wasn't doing much here. And so now and I wasn't writing at all for
yeah,
maybe a decade. I didn't write a damn thing. And so I'm trying to relearn this tool
yeah,
again, and the muscles are atrophied, and I need to get them back up to speed. And so it's
yeah,
happening. I feel it happening now. Now in this moment, I finally feel like, okay, I can just. It's a little bit like I can just follow this path, and it will start to unravel, unfold itself.
yeah,
Before I was having to like break through the wall of like write a
right,
fucking song. It worked. It's all right. I have a lot of stick to itiveness, so I can do that.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So how does it feel to be back in the game?
I like it, man. I like it. I like it better being a little bit older too. And I like it that my goals have shifted. I mean, I was one of those goobers that was like, I'm gonna make it, ma. And it just wasn't, at least so far, hasn't been in the cards for me.
Hmm.
And I don't have any illusions that I'm gonna be talking to you from Jimmy Kimmel next year. What what? It's like I'm a guy who's just making music. My goals are I want to be happy with it. I want to be proud of it. A little bit of a legacy, maybe. Like if somebody can listen to my stuff after I'm gone, that's a neat feeling. I like the thought of that.
Right.
Yeah, that's it, man. But yeah, so I'm gonna keep on keeping on, keep booking shows. I did just book one in October for the Smithville Music Festival. It's another
Mm.
town a little bit
Yep.
further out, and I'm trying to make a little bit movement up. I want to get better and better gigs. I can't just jump everybody in
Yeah.
line. I've got to do the work like everybody else does.
Yeah.
All of my connections that I had a decade ago are different, and
Yeah.
so I kind of starting over fresh again. So it's all right. I
Yeah.
kind of like it though.
You're starting over fresh, but with a lot of seasoning behind you.
Right, as in the salt and pepper. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the
I know what you're talking. No, you're right. I'm just joking.
yeah. No, you're good.
Yeah.
Uh, my hair doesn't look that bad here, but it's like you go in the mirror, this hair is just like grayed out like nobody's
Yeah.
business. So
My beard too. I can see a little bit of white there. It's a lot
yeah,
more in better lighting for sure.
yeah. It's like I was sitting here noticing it. I was like, man, when did my hair get this dark? But no, it's the lighting for sure.
Yeah,
So
good lighting. I like it.
yep. Oh, but really appreciate your time. If anybody wants to check out your music, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, man. The website has links to everything else you could want, all the Spotify and social media. So it's just my name, AlexHenley.com. And yeah, like I said, it'll take you everywhere. If you want to hear or look about the jujitsu stuff we do, the gym is Insight, INSIGHT, BJJ.com.
Yes.
It's good. It's fun. Yeah, you can see some videos and stuff.
Sweet, sweet, sweet.
Yep.
But really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you,
Dude, thank you
everybody.
so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.